Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor y saber qué programación es tu favorita. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir, así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias.
Este año cumplimos 70 años llenos de historia, pero al mirar hacia atrás hay cosas que no nos dan orgullo. Ofrecimos viajes de negocios solo a los varones y pusimos a la mujer únicamente en el rol de madre. Hablamos de su cuerpo, su ropa, su peinado y su edad. Mostramos sus piernas para vender pasajes. Mostramos que las mujeres estaban para servir y que un avión no podía ser piloteado por ellas. Entendimos el problema, fuimos parte del problema y hoy queremos participar de la solución.
Mirando al presente con otra perspectiva.
¿Alguna vez escuchaste decir deficiente, inválido, inválida, discapacitado, discapacitada? Estas son lamentablemente algunas de las palabras que parte de la sociedad sigue eligiendo para referirse a una persona en situación de discapacidad. Y esto no está bien. Obviamente no lo digo yo. Es por eso que la ONU y la Agencia Nacional de Discapacidad se unieron para enseñarnos cuál es el término adecuado y es personas con discapacidad o personas en situación de discapacidad. También es importante dejar de decir tiene un trabajo normal o tiene una vida normal. Esto que muchos llaman normal es vida digna, trabajo digno o en igualdad de oportunidades. Porque después de todo, ¿qué es ser normal? El concepto de normalidad es otra manera de discriminación y exclusión. ¿Sabías que Argentina tiene ley de cupo laboral? ¿Qué significa esto? Que el Estado tiene la obligación de que toda persona con discapacidad o en situación de discapacidad tengan el derecho a trabajar. Pero a ver, ¿qué dice esta ley? Que el poder legislativo, ejecutivo y judicial, que los organismos y empresas del Estado, que las empresas privadas proveedoras de servicios públicos deben tener trabajando al menos el 4% de personas en situación de discapacidad. El Senado de la Nación cumple con esta ley teniendo más del 5%. Ahora ya sabes, la próxima vez que tengas que dirigirte a este grupo de personas, hacelo de manera correcta, con respeto y sin discriminar, porque posta es su derecho.
Yo soy Juan José Novoa, estamos en las oficinas del Registro Civil en Quito. Yo estoy en situación de discapacidad, un accidente de tránsito hace 4 años.
El Registro Civil brinda atención prioritaria a personas con discapacidad.
Me fue súper bien, un trámite gratuito, muy ágil, fui acompañado por los distintos pasos del trámite y que estoy muy contento de haberlo realizado.
Es fácil, seguro y ágil. Nuestra identidad ahora es digital.
Gracias al esfuerzo de parlamentarios se aprobó una moción parlamentaria que hace una cosa súper concreta y que como gobierno tenemos que promulgar, que es que hoy día, si tú te estacionas en un estacionamiento para personas con discapacidad o impides el acceso o utilizas parte del espacio, la sanción aumentó. ¿Cuál va a ser ahora? Vas a tener que pagar entre 50.000 pesos y 75.000 pesos de multa y además el juez puede suspenderte la licencia si es que has cometido otra infracción grave en el año. Por lo tanto, de la situación anterior, que era una multa mucho inferior y que no había suspensión de licencia, tenemos hoy día una sanción más dura que hace que tengamos incentivos correctos para que la gente no ocupe los estacionamientos de las personas con discapacidad. Esperamos que los chilenos tengamos conciencia de esto, pero además ya tenemos sanciones más duras para aquellos que no son capaces de entender este mensaje.
Prejuicios. Muchos asumen que las personas con discapacidad no podemos sentir atracción por alguien, porque somos como angelitos, como niños, somos inocentes. Hay que transformar esos prejuicios sobre la discapacidad. Las personas con discapacidad podemos sentir atracción y podemos ser atractivos para alguien, Podemos enamorarnos, formar una familia. Tenemos el derecho de decidir sobre nuestra sexualidad con responsabilidad e independencia, y nadie debe quitarnos este derecho. Tampoco nadie puede forzarnos a mantener una relación con otra persona sin nuestro consentimiento. Eso es violencia.
Discapacidad Televisión. ¡Hola mundo! Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. A continuación, Footless Yo, más allá de una amputación. Presenta BECKWITH. Audio en inglés, subtítulos en castellano.
Hello there, my beautiful, lovely internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. Real quick, if your name is my father, please don't watch this video. For anyone else, let's dive in. My dad is super sweet in that he watches all of the videos that I make, and he always has. He's been a huge supporter, and I love that, but this one topic, you'll understand. So I woke up to a comment this morning saying this: how does the obvious affect my love life? Today I wanted to talk about and disability, and I do have to censor that word because YouTube doesn't like you just coming out and saying it. So I am a 32-year-old woman. I was married for 7 years. I've been in more than one long-term committed relationship and short-term not committed relationships, and I still feel very odd talking publicly about sex because of the background that I came from. But I've actually gotten a lot of feedback over the years, especially from people in person who have recently gone through limb loss and are really concerned about how it's going to affect their love life, their sex life, and I just get a lot of comments, like not the creepy kind, the genuinely interested kind, because the vast majority of humans are sexual creatures, we're sexual beings, so to wonder only makes sense. And no, you little creeps out there, I'm not going to be going into any gory details, okay? So go ahead and head off if that's what you were here for. What did you think, I was going to get graphic with puppy children present? No, we stay classy here. Also, quick side note, this is not a sponsored message, except kind of because I am advertising myself. I recently started a podcast all about dating, romance, relationships, modern issues, how we are approaching interactions between genders, and more. It's something I'm super excited about. It's called the Turbo Dude Podcast. We are streaming live on my channel. Check the link in the description. New episode is going live tonight, but you can always watch the replay. And also, I figured out how to get us on Spotify. Big brain stuff. So if you're interested in the topic of today's video and want to hear us talk about all of this and more not related to disability, check it out. Let me know what you think. So I want to start off by acknowledging a couple things. I realize that I fall into what I've always said is like the socially, I don't think I'm like a bombshell, right? But I think I fit enough of society's like expectations of what women are supposed to look like. I say that with all of the sarcasm because I think that's bullshit, but I also do recognize that I have a smaller frame, a more athletic build, I'm white, I have blonde hair. Some people say it's brown. I think it's blonde. My driver's license says it's blonde. So that is gonna have an impact on how I have experienced all of this. Additionally, I was not visibly disabled for the first 28 years of my life. I think that I thought, and a lot of society thinks, that there must be some major impact on your sex life if you are disabled in some way. And on the one hand, absolutely, because you have different physical limitations or mental ones. Maybe your body moves a little bit differently than an average person. However, I have found that the same basic tenets, the fact that if you are engaging in like sexual activity, the same ingredients are still necessary, right? When I first lost my leg, I was in a committed relationship. I was married. What I will say about that is that the insecurities that I had about the physical change in my body had way more of an effect than my partner's perception of like my leg being gone and me looking different in that context. This is something that we did, talk through. And for me personally, after the first couple of times we were together in that way, after losing my leg, the vast majority of any insecurity or weirdness I felt around that dissipated. But getting divorced and then re-entering the dating scene, yeah, those insecurities reared their little heads again. I didn't know how I would be perceived by other people. And I've talked about this in other videos that this specific kind of disability, missing a leg, I am very clear about the fact that it is gone if I am, you know, like on a dating app or profile, or if you meet me in real life. It's not going to come as a surprise or a secret. And in my experience, everybody that I have gone out with has been genuinely super cool about it. In some ways, I don't feel like it's all that much different than finding a partner, no matter who you are, and engaging in sex with them. Across the board, there should be communication, you know, clear boundaries, enthusiastically being into it, you know, all parties involved, discussion of what you like and what you don't like. That is the same for disabled bodies as it is for able bodies. Hi there, friends, it's Editing Joe. I realized editing this video that I focused largely on the point that I think that a lot of society thinks that disability has more of an effect on sexuality and sexual relationships than it actually does. However, what I definitely failed to mention, because disability is such a wide spectrum, everyone's experience is different, is a couple things. Number one, finding a partner, whether that's a committed relationship or a casual thing, is definitely more difficult, can be more difficult for people. Specifically, if you have a physical disability, there are a lot of people who will not think of you as sexual, who will automatically write you off for that. It's one of the reasons why I am like really clear when I'm dating that like, hey, my leg is missing before we even meet, because if that's like a deal breaker for someone, I'm not interested in wasting my time or wasting theirs, right? For me, sex is hugely about connection. Like the way that you can get to know someone at that level, I have discovered in the last year and a half, is something that's really important to me. I didn't really think of myself as that like physical or sexual of a person for the vast majority of my life for so many reasons, but getting to, you know, just personally explore what that means to me and what I care about, feeling safe in those situations and having the ability to just like explore with someone, or, you know, someone's. Me personally, I like the one-on-one thing, but whatever you are into, as long as everybody's into it, go for it. Me missing a leg doesn't change the fact that like, let's communicate, let's set boundaries, let's talk about what we like and what we don't like. And beyond the amputation, like the chronic pain, fibromyalgia, migraine stuff that I deal with, again, it's kind of the same as like anybody else. Some days you're feeling it, some days you're not feeling so great, some days you are up to and, you know, want to engage sexually with your partner, and other times the situation isn't right or you're not feeling it. Also, this is me perhaps thinking overly positively, but I think in some ways having a physical disability when it comes to sexual intimacy is like a gift and a curse kind of thing, right? Because there are going to be things that are different, there are going to be changes that might need to be made, but it does allow for a lot more communication and also for getting creative, right? Because there's troubleshooting, which is a bonding experience for people. You might have to get creative, and I don't see those things as necessarily bad in this context, as long as you are with someone who you trust and feel safe with, which you deserve to always be the case. I think one of the biggest things that I have really worked on developing is not so much like being super confident in how my body looks and loving every, you know, I don't really relate to that. It's more like accepting the fact that, hey, I have a body, that's cool, grateful to be alive most days. At least that's what I'm supposed to say. Some days are rough, okay, but I am grateful to be alive. And like knowing that I am gonna accept the person that I am engaging in an intimate situation with for exactly who they are and like the body that they have, and like loving and respecting them for that, and expecting the same in return, and just like showing up as who I am. Like, I'm missing a leg. One of the weirdest things to me is that like my abdomen is like floppy, right? Like there's a lot of extra skin because over the years a lot of that muscle has broken down, so it's floppy. It's weird, okay? I don't love the way it looks, but also I'm not gonna allow that to get in the way of me being able to connect with someone on such like a deep, personal, intimate level. If I'm feeling weird about it, let me bring that up with my partner. Let's talk about it. With that being said, fetishes are a very real thing. We all know this. We all love this. And maybe we all have them. I don't know. But fetishes around disability in particular can be really concerning. It is something that I have had to watch out for in the world of dating, and really pay attention to like any gut feelings or anything like that, because you will be objectified. Like there are people who are attracted to me specifically because my leg is missing, kissing for sexual reasons, and like that doesn't do it for me. I'm not interested in being objectified for that. And there's definitely a community of people that have fetishes for different sorts of disabilities, so you have to be careful. Also, let's talk about safety, vulnerability, and risks. The safety risks for people with disabilities are a lot higher. The statistics are very depressing when it comes to like abuse, assault, things like that. So the emphasis on safety that you like, that mindset that you have to have really goes up. That is something I try to be very cautious about, like always extra importantly listening to my gut if something doesn't feel right, if a message feels off, if I just don't get a good vibe from a person, because people do see you as more vulnerable. Sexual crimes are perpetrated against people with disabilities at a much higher rate. So like safety first, always, for everybody, but especially if you're a person with a disability dating. In my personal opinion, please feel free to disagree in the comments. Sex with a disability is exactly like sex without a disability. It's figuring out how to connect, have that experience with another person in a way that's like awesome and fantastic and beautiful for the both of you, because every person is so unique and individual. Like how one person receives love or receives pleasure is not going to be the same for any other person. And that's always going to be deeply individual and deeply personal, no matter how many people you've slept with or not. It's still about the person, you know, that you're with in that moment and really getting to know them. And so partner, to really get to know me, this is going to be a part of the package, you know, understanding that certain parts don't feel good, like if they are touched or grabbed or like, you know, moved a certain way, communicating that, understanding that like I get phantom pain quite often throughout the day. I'm gonna like, you know, like yelp or jump a little bit. Like that's gonna be a part of my experience. And also that, you know, pain is so bad sometimes that I'm not gonna be up for anything other than laying completely still on the couch. Of all of the things that have impacted my sex life, I would say that this is like top 10. But honestly, being raised in the evangelical Christian church in purity culture, I'll put a link down below if you don't know what that is, but being extremely indoctrinated with shame around the topic of sex, that has impacted how I view myself sexually and how I've been able to engage with people to such a deep and dark extent. Like that has messed me up, and it's something that I feel like I'm just now kind of coming out of and being like, it's okay to enjoy pleasure, like it's okay to want sex, it's okay that I have sexuality, that I'm a sexual being. I don't have to like apologize for that or hide that. Like that previous mindset that I grew up with, that impacted sex for me so heavily. I love the fact that sexuality is a part of who I am, and I have never been able to say that literally any other point in my life because I have been so deeply ashamed to be a sexual creature, to be a sexual being, because I was raised in purity culture in the evangelical Christian church where that shit was shamed so hard. And after spending years working through that to like really love and appreciate my sexuality is such a cool experience. I think generally as a society we tend to think that things that we can see are the things that must have most impact on a person. In my personal experience, that's never been the case. Other types of experiences and traumas that I have gone through in my life have impacted who I am as a person and my experience in the world so much more than losing my leg. And that is the case for how I experience and see sex as well. Also, I want to talk for a moment about if you are someone whose partner has a disability and you guys have a sexual relationship or you want a sexual relationship, how to talk about it or bring it up. I cannot encourage you enough to just open up that conversation. Not talking about things, like not asking questions, is just never gonna be good. Like that's gonna lead to misunderstanding and hurt. If you have questions about how that disability affects how that person sees themselves sexually, they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, all of that, when you guys are, you know, at a level to have that conversation appropriately, ask your partner if you can have that conversation, if you can ask those things, if you can hear about, you know, their experience and their perception and what they're looking for and just all of that. Talk about it. I do not speak for everybody with a disability even a little bit, but I will say that I have so appreciated the moments when, in general, but talking in this video in a sexual context, someone has been like, hey, I was wondering how, you know, blank affects you, or how blank feels, or what you'd be most comfortable about this or that. Having someone just like hear me, right, about an experience that I am the expert on, builds that trust, builds that connection, makes me more comfortable with them. So if you're ever even kind of in doubt, Have the conversation, ask the questions. And rule of thumb all the time, respect what the other person has to say. So long story short, sex and disability, it's about communication. It's about getting comfortable with your partner. And disabled or able-bodied, everyone has stuff that is specific to them that if they're allowing you to engage in that intimate setting with them, you learn, you listen, you understand, you respect. Same for disability. I didn't even run them this morning, but they are tuckered babies. Thank you so much for listening to me chatter here for a bit about sex and disability and my own experience. If you have any specific questions, leave it in the comment section down below. I would love to answer them maybe in a short form video for you. Also, if you want to do me a favor, if you want to check out that link down below to my podcast channel, all of the information is right down there below in the description. If you even kind of enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you'd be interested in what we're talking about over there. This is a story that I've honestly been very anxious to share with you guys for quite some time, but due to legal advice have not been able to for about 2.5 years. The reason I am going to tell you the story of me choosing to sue a company that caused my second leg amputation, that caused me not to be able to walk for about 8 months, to be on crutches, having another additional surgery in there because of the injury that was caused by them, is to let you know what it actually is like and what the journey can be like for someone in this kind of a case. I know that there are people out there who have been injured by businesses or by negligence, have considered suing, maybe you've always wondered what the process was like, and so I'm going to detail that out for you here. I have put timestamps down below if you want to skip to different parts of the video, as this is a bit of a longer story. This whole process, start to finish, was a little bit more than I bargained for, more than I expected, and so I wanted to share what the reality of being involved in a lawsuit can look like, both mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, all of that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. I've talked about this very lightly in passing. I said, I had a fall, which, led to more surgeries in the second amputation. But the part that I've never really gone into depth about is what actually happened that day, the day that I fell on my freshly amputated leg, which is just a gross sentence to say. So it's kind of a quick recap, especially if you're new to my channel. Hello there, my name is Jo. I had a below the knee leg amputation in October of 2018, and 2 days before I was supposed to get fit for my very first prosthetic leg, I went to get lunch with my husband, Brian. I was on crutches at the time. This is nothing new. I've been on crutches for years of my life because I had so many ankle surgeries. I often joke that I'm a pro on crutches, but I mean, not to hype myself up. I know what I'm doing. I know how to stay upright. We went to this restaurant as we were going to our seats after ordering to sit down. I tried to, take a step with my crutches, but as soon as my crutches touched the ground, they went flying out from underneath me. And unfortunately, I fell directly on my freshly amputated leg. I was 6 weeks out from my amputation surgery. Skin and incisions, and more importantly, bones and soft tissue were still healing. And pretty much my full weight came down on my stump as my crutches flew out from under me. I was on the ground sobbing in like a public restaurant, which was super embarrassing because of the pain that I was in, and also because of the understanding that something felt wrong and what just happened could severely impact my life. I was really scared. I was able to get up off the floor. Even trying to move past that location, because I was still on crutches, was incredibly difficult because the floor was so incredibly greasy.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006. A continuación, Footless Yo, más allá de una amputación. Presenta BECKWITH. Audio en inglés. Subtítulos en castellano.
Hello there, my beautiful, lovely internet friends. I'd like to introduce you to the weakness of my little nubbin here after surgery, but we are getting so much better. Ah, baby. Here we have Sophie, the self-appointed protector of the nubbin, and Leo, who is sleeping with his head off of the bed. That can't be good for you, buddy. A few days ago, I posted a surgery update video. I was looking pretty rough, and I am so happy to report that, dear Lord, a week makes all of the difference, and I am feeling really good. If you're curious what I'm talking about with surgery, I'll post the 2 videos down below about what actually needed to be done and why, but the reason I am making this video today is for all of you nerds out there. Yeah, I see you, who are fascinated by medical things, specifically by medical bullshit and things that go wrong. Really, really large warning. If you are someone who does not do well with anything that might make you squeamish, I would highly recommend not watching this video. I'm gonna include pictures of everything that occurred with a extraordinarily bad allergic reaction on most of the lower part of my leg after surgery, because it's like absolutely awful and also really fascinating to me, because that's just sort of how my brain works. But it's not gonna be for everyone, and I will say that as someone who is not squeamish really at all, maybe it's the fact that like it was on my own skin, but I was even like, don't look at this, don't look at this. I was aware of the fact that I had an allergy to something called chlorhexidine in surgery. Or so I thought, because the last time that I had a major surgery when they revised my leg, I had what I thought at the time was a really bad reaction. I did a video about it. I'll link that down below. This is some of what it looked like. In my mind, that was like a zombie leg, right? Ew, gross. Oh, Joe of the past, you knew so little. It can get so much cooler looking and way more painful. Turns out what I actually have a severe allergy to is something called mastazole. You can't stand there. Come here. Lay down. Good job. So heading into this surgery, I let the doctors and nurses know chlorhexidine, can't use it on my skin, should be all good to go. What is this face? What is this face? Coming out of this surgery and the few days following it, I have not ever experienced the kind of pain that I was in, like the amount of pain that I was in. It was real bad. I was not leaving the hospital. I really wanted to go home, but like I've had my leg literally cut off twice, and this pain was worse. And the feeling that I kept coming back to was like, it literally feels like my leg is burning off. Like there was a ton of nerve pain, there was like phantom pain, there was incision pain because there were 3 incisions there that were pretty large, but then it like my whole leg felt like it was burning off. I chalked this up to nerve and phantom pain when I talked to doctors and nurses about it. Understandably, they also chalked it up to, yeah, your nerves were operated on, it makes sense, it sucks that it's so bad, but let's see what we can do to get it under control. But as days went on, and it was in moments pretty unbearable, I began to really wonder, like, what the hell is going on? And then a serendipitous string of events occurred. Unfortunately, one of the issues was that there was a pain pump that was installed to inject medication directly into my leg underneath the splint that I had never been turned on. One day when my doctor was coming in to check on me, he caught it. The way that this pump in particular was activated is for this little part to be taped down to your skin so that your body heat warms it and lets it run. So my doctor cleaned that site with mastazole, taped it down, put some Sanoderm over it to keep it there, and we should have been good to go. Pretty quickly, it didn't feel right. Like that area where he had slathered whatever it was, it started out by looking just like red, just irritated, a little itchy. But then it kept spreading and progressing and almost looked like shingles, and then got like pussy and weird and kept growing, and then it felt like my skin was burning. And I thought to myself, like, what is going on with the rest of my leg? Kind of feels similar, like obviously way worse, but I wonder if something else is going on. When you have a splint on, you can't move your leg, you can't touch your skin, obviously it gets itchy. And so one day something felt really itchy, and so I was kind of like sliding my finger underneath the splint to like gently itch an area, and I felt something like raised and weird. And I was able to kind of peek underneath it and saw that it looked like red and inflamed. And at that moment, I got pretty concerned because knowing the kind of allergic reaction I had had before, I was like, shit, what if something happened again? I called my nurse in, she was able to kind of take a look because we couldn't really get to what was going on without taking off the splint. And she agreed that yes, it was concerning, but kind of like the floor doctor on call and the nurses said, we're not gonna touch this until tomorrow when your surgeon can actually come in and do it himself. He's very particular about dressings, we don't wanna mess with it. However, I was not in a place to wait any longer because again, knowing what kind of reaction I had had before, I was just really worried. So I ended up calling my doctor's office. Long story short, he actually came at the end of his workday, which was very kind of him to take it off and take a look. So we took the splint off, and this was the first day. I really want to stress this was not the worst day. We got more cool pictures coming up, but it was very clear that I had an allergic reaction to this. From the location of it, it was like immediately clear, oh, that is like a severe mastazole allergy. It also matched what was going on with my hip. And unfortunately, like it had just been kind of like eating my skin underneath the splint for quite some time. And it's not like they could scrub it off because it would literally scrub my skin off. So all they could do was sort of like gently pat it down, apply some like salve to it and wrap it back up. Also, they didn't want to put me on any steroids or anything like that because I tend to have a like weak immune system and an increased risk of infection. Steroids steroids can lower that even further after a major surgery. They didn't want to put me on anything, so it was kind of like a you gotta deal with it thing. So they went to change it the next day, and these are like the chef's kiss, someone please put me out of my misery pictures, where it kind of reached the height of, you know, spreading. Oftentimes things will look worse before they get better. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting here, but it looks atrocious. Oh god, I just remember this. This is one of the most gross parts. When they wrapped it back up, right? As they took the bandages off, a lot of the blisters popped and like a lot of the skin that was stuck to what was around it came off. And overnight, whatever was draining from all of this literally soaked through like layers and layers of gauze and ace bandage, where it was like you touched it anywhere on that splint, and it was very moist. Super gross. Yeah, so I spent a couple more days in the hospital, and then they sent me home. These are some of the pictures of it continuing to heal. And can I just say, if anyone else has this thing, you'll get it. It took so much self-restraint not to like pick that skin off of there, because if you can see, it's kind of coming off, and all I wanted to do was like peel all of it off because it was gross and it felt terrible. But yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea to do, because then it would literally be opening my skin up and be an open wound and even increased risk of infection, which is no fun. It's just not a good time. At this point, there wasn't like a ton of pain from the allergic reaction anymore, at least that I could tell. So itchy. Benadryl didn't do anything. Not just digging my fingers into my leg to stop the itching was something I'm very proud of myself not for doing. Now, from the time of surgery, I wasn't allowed to like actually have my splint off or get it wet or anything like that. But when that day came, you best believe that I got everything off my skin that I could, and it still looked atrocious. Like this is one of the photos from after like rinsing off. You can tell that it's just so angry looking. But being able to actually wash it off helped so much. I definitely started feeling and looking better. I kind of feel like my skin molted a couple times. I don't think skin really does that on humans, but it's like it regenerated a number of times and like had another layer peel off and then another layer peel off. And I was a little bit concerned that it would like permanently scar or permanently have this discoloration. If it did, not the end of the world, right? But I will say, check it out, guys. Look at this. Almost indiscernible where the reaction was. There are some little scars from where I maybe picked at things after I got it off. I actually don't think they're scars. I think it's just still healing. So with my experience with this allergic reaction, whenever I introduce myself to a new person, I think I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm Joe. I have a mastazole allergy. Please don't bring it near me. Just random people on the street, just in case. Now, with that other reaction that I had years ago, I am curious if that actually was to mastazole and not chlorhexidine. They didn't realize that, or I didn't realize that. Not sure. In any case, we know now. So if you made it this far, you're probably a fellow medical nerd like I am and just fascinated by this stuff. But I wanted to make this a totally separate video because I didn't want to include anything that someone might not want to see in like the main surgery update video. Hello there, my beautiful, lovely internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. This is not how I planned the setup for the video, but as soon as I sat down, the puppies deemed that it's cuddle time, and who am I to disappoint? It is a snowy, you know, the cozy, stay in a hoodie kind of day here in Colorado, and I'm feeling controversial. So right off the bat, I might not say the politically correct thing in this video, and if that's the case, I hope you'll educate me. I am thoroughly open to having my opinion changed on this, but there's something that I see going on in my community sometimes that doesn't sit right with me. I'm trying to have a serious talk. And that is the way in which we address ableism. So there I was scrolling through TikTok the other day and I came across a video that upset me, but maybe not for the reason that you would think. Apparently there is something called the deaf blind mute challenge going around where 3 friends will like try to bake a cake or something. One won't be allowed to hear anything, one has a blindfold, can't see anything, and the other friend can't say anything. It's kind of like this just like funny, you know, TikTok trend. Potentially problematic, but we'll come back to that. This video was pointing out the fact that this is a very ableist trend. Like you are taking people's life experiences of being a blind person or being a deaf person and turning into a TikTok challenge and entertainment and not doing a good job of showcasing maybe how we should be talking about these topics. That perspective, I can totally understand. But the problem was the way that this was pointed out. This creator in particular was talking down to anyone who would be making this challenge. Was saying like, that's ableist, you shouldn't do that, in a tone of understandable judgment and anger. To my knowledge, this is not a creator who talks about disability normally. They were just like pointing out, here's a problem. And it really didn't sit right with me because it hit on something that I have been wanting to talk about for a long time, but I have been scared to. I don't want to offend anyone in my community. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I'm gonna say the thing that I'm thinking and then be open to learning. Is ableism a problem? Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's everywhere. But is the way that we are addressing and talking about it actually helpful for change? Personally, I don't think so. But before we dive into the meat of this video, a quick word from our sponsor. A huge thank you to our returning sponsor, Blueland. As you may know, I recently moved, meaning I did a lot of cleaning of the old place and the new one, and Blueland, which is what I used to clean, came in fantastically handy. So I've actually used their cleaning products way before they sponsored me. They're all about effective, affordable, and plant-friendly ingredients. Also, Blueland does not use any single-use plastics in any component of its products. All you have to do is fill your Forever bottle with warm to hot water, drop one of these tablets into your water bottle, and then you can use it within minutes, no shaking or stirring needed. Their tablets start at just $2.25. You can save more by bulking up on refills or using their subscription service. My go-to almost daily cleaning task, this is your fault, is puppy nose prints on windows. So I use their window cleaning product quite often, and it's definitely my personal favorite. And good news, you do not have to wait until Black Friday to get the best Blueland deals. No, you can't eat this. This is not for you. You can shop Blueland's best sale of the year right now and take 20% off your entire order by using the link in my description. To stock up on sustainable cleaning products for yourself or to give a beautiful and sustainable gift to a friend, family, loved one this holiday season, click the link in my description box. Check out that link to up your cleaning game today. Someone's feeling needy. Thank you so much, Blueland, for sponsoring another one of my videos. I really appreciate it. Checking them out helps support this channel. And with that being said, let's jump back into it. Are you guys gonna behave? They're never gonna behave. Oh, I found the spot. Man, the lighting in this video is just not great. Nothing I can do about it now. Okay, so if you are not familiar with what ableism is, it's basically discrimination against disabled people in favor of able-bodied people. That video could be, and probably should be, one in and of itself because there are so many constant examples of how our society is built, not for people who are disabled. And along with that comes a lot of intentional and unintentional harm. So being a member of the disabled community, having experienced a little bit of this, but honestly, I've been lucky, not much. I see it as a major issue. I want to open people's eyes to what living with a disability is actually like. That's a huge reason that I have this channel, that I make the short videos and the TikToks that I do. I want to sort of be an entry point for someone to be able to ask questions, to see me as a person who is missing a leg. That's an aspect of my life. And like, let's talk about it. Let's make things less uncomfortable. Really big fan of that. I am all for reducing and, you know, maybe one day eliminating ableism from our societies as culture moves forward. But so very often when I hear conversations when someone is calling out something as ableist, the way that it is presented is often very off-putting, sometimes hostile, and certainly there are instances where that's okay, but I don't believe that that is where change actually happens. I mean, like if someone came up to me and was like, Joe, you're a real piece of trash person. My immediate reaction is not to be like, oh wow, you know, I never thought about it that way. Let me go re-examine everything for you because you've pointed out that I'm a piece of trash and that really matters to me and I am now inspired to change. Generally speaking, if you come at someone with hostility, especially about something that they may be unaware of, like a lot of people don't know that that challenge definitely has ableist tones to it. If we come at these conversations with like finger pointing, like you did something wrong, specifically when that person is probably unaware of the fact that they were crossing any boundaries or lines, that shuts down motivation and desire to change and generally makes people really like on the defense. It becomes a story about, yeah, I just was having fun with my friends. I just want to do this challenge and now I'm apparently an ableist, you know, piece of crap. Instead of perhaps with compassion and patience, which we will circle back to in just a moment, pointing out to someone, hey, you know, I saw that video, for example, and as someone who is part or cares about the disabled community, I feel like it might not be in great taste, and you know, here's why. Here's what ableism is. Here are the things it reinforces. Here's where I think it's not a good idea to maybe continue making videos like that. Can we have a conversation about that? You are inviting someone in. You're not assuming their intent. You're not expecting them to know something that they've never been taught before. I can think of quite a few instances in my life where people have done this for me, where I've said or I did something that crossed lines that I didn't know were crossing lines, and they graciously pointed it out, invited me into a conversation, and I had the opportunity to learn something, to change a little bit, to have my eyes open to something I was previously unaware of. But I've also had people come to me in hostility, pointing fingers. I hate pointing fingers. I hate even doing it at the camera to you because nobody likes that. It doesn't evoke a good reaction, generally speaking. A very important caveat to all of this, as a disabled person, should I be required to nicely, compassionately, graciously, patiently explain to someone why them saying that they would kill themselves in a heartbeat if they ever lost a leg, you know, is not a great thing to say or hear. Do I have an obligation to be like, hey, heard your comment, totally understand where you're coming from, I used to feel that way myself, but here's the thing. Now that I am disabled, hearing things like that really feel like you're invalidating my entire life, like you're saying that I shouldn't continue existing, I shouldn't continue living, or that other disabled people shouldn't because their lives wouldn't even be worth it because you would end it if it happened to you. That's how it comes across. I know it wasn't meant that way, but like, can we talk about that? Versus being like, wow, thanks for telling me my life is meaningless, you jerk. Should I be required to educate and sit with someone? No. Absolutely not. However, one of the viciously unfair things about life is that when a group of people is being oppressed, looked down on, minimized, you name it, so often they are the people who have to do the hard work. That isn't fair, but I do feel like it is a reality of life. And at least for me personally, if we're gonna get on public platforms trying to implement long-term societal change in how people who are disabled are seen, the most effective way to do that is not through anger and finger pointing and telling someone that they fucked up. How dare they? It is so much faster and more effective to speak to someone not assuming their intention, ask if you can have a conversation, ask questions, you know, point things out, still treat them like they're a human being too. Because I know, at least for me, I've never really wanted to change when someone told me that I was awful. Because for me personally, if someone's assuming my intent and then telling me why I'm a bad person for that intent that was assumed that might be incorrect, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't really want to come to your party. I think it is extraordinarily unfair that so often when you are in the group of people that is being kicked, someone's asking you to be nice about it. And there are many situations in which I do not think that that is the best response. Anger, frustration, all of that is entirely justified, and I'm not trying to downplay that, but I am saying that if we are going to take to public platforms to call things out, I feel like it would be vastly more beneficial if we did so treating other people like they're still human too, like they probably didn't mean to mess something up, presenting them like with an opportunity to change and have a conversation, rather than only speaking in a way that tends to alienate people. At least I can say that that is what I try to do. That's the approach that I take. I've found it to be effective. Have I stuck with that 100% of the time? No. There's certainly some times when people have said things that were, you know, that just like hit a nerve in me. And additionally, one other thing I want to point out is that I have seen quite a few videos over the past year or so of creators who at least don't talk about being disabled. Whether or not they are, I can't tell you, but they'll take a stand for the disabled community as someone who is most likely not a member of that community from what they're saying, and they'll point fingers and tell other people that they're doing it wrong because they figured it out, right? Like they figured out how not to be ableist, and now it's their job to show everybody that too. But unfortunately, so often that comes across as virtue signaling. It honestly feels like someone is just trying to congratulate themselves for doing a better job at not being ableist than someone else. Often it sounds like, you know, I'm better than you, you ableist scum. Stop oppressing the disabled, without taking any time to actually listen to the community, to talk to people who are disabled, to maybe even more deeply examine the issues that they are talking about on a very surface level. I've seen this happen in comment sections before, even of my own videos, where someone is asking a question, not in a particularly offensive way, and then is just jumped on by people being like, how dare you ask that? That's so ableist. And maybe it is, right? But the person certainly didn't intend it that way. It was a genuine question and they got shut the hell down. The next time they think about asking a question, they're probably not gonna do it. They're probably not gonna get an answer, and whatever stereotype they had in their head or assumption is just gonna stay there because it's not safe to have that conversation because they just got their hand slapped last time, so why would they open it up again? And honestly, if you are not a part of a community that you are trying to speak for, unless you have really done your homework and educated yourself, quite often you might not know what you're talking about. And so when you tell other people that they're ableist to sit down and shut up, you're hurting disabled people, I would personally argue that oftentimes what that accomplishes is whoever that message is for never wants to ask a question again, never wants to comment again on a video, never wants to look into it because they got burnt. And as I have said all of this, I'm not sure if it's the right approach. I can just say that from my experience, it really rubs me the wrong way when we use our public platforms and our public voices if we want to implement change. If that is the goal we are going towards. I'm not talking about, you know, if you're just a person, everyday interactions, but to implement change. I really think that if we were kinder about it, I think we would see more lasting change and the changing of actual mindsets and ways of thinking if we approach this like a conversation and invited people into it rather than only pointing fingers and alienating. So with that being said, do you think I'm wrong here? I certainly 100% think that anger and frustration and the expression of that are very important in my community and elsewhere. By no means am I saying not to feel or not to express those things, but the assumption of intent that someone is meaning to be ableist without knowing, I personally feel like does damage to implementing lasting change. What do you think? I am very nervous to release this video because I feel like I've said 12 different things that I've been told not to say, but this is just how I try to approach things in my own life for myself, and I think it works, but what do I know? I am in one of those moods where I want to never talk to another soul ever again, and yet I am dying for someone to reach out and ask how I am so I can be like, bad, thanks for asking. I am recovering from shingles. I didn't think that this was something you could get under age 50. I'm hoping that this qualifies me for senior discounts, but I got shingles on my leg. A, really painful, B, super gross, and C, I couldn't walk and still can't. But I did manage a shower today, so we're improving. Okay, that was a super long intro. A memory popped up on Facebook for me today of a super sweet and also bizarre interaction I had with a little kid about my prosthetic leg, and so I was thinking back to all of the other stories that I have with strangers. Most of them are great, a few are pretty bizarre, and one was terrifying. So I'm gonna take you through my top 5 interactions with people. About Mr. McNubbins here. Also, I like this striped sock I picked out for today to keep this little nubbin warm. Let's dive in. As previously mentioned, I'm in a state today. One thing that really helps me is talking, which is where today's sponsor, Discord, comes in. Thank you so much to Discord for sponsoring today's video. Now, Discord, you know them, you love them, you probably already use them. If not, check out the link down below to download and join my server, but Discord is a place where you and my lovely internet friends can connect with me and also with each other. I'm actually really excited to announce that I am opening this Discord server for us because I've been looking for a better way for everyone to connect other than just like comment sections, and Discord is the perfect place for that. You'll be able to get behind the scenes content, access an amazing community of like-minded people, and we can all communicate a variety of ways from text to voice and more. So I have my Discord server pulled up here on my phone. You'll find channels for talking about all different kinds of things, and I already have 3 times scheduled where I'm going to be sitting down and chatting with you guys live. Check out those dates and times in the description down below. And like I said, follow that link in my description to download Discord today and join my server and join this community. I've always felt just crazy lucky that the community that I have, you know, people who have found my channels and pages are genuinely just fantastic. I have had a really positive experience here on the internet thanks to you, and so this is the next evolution of that community. My nubbin sock is falling off. Fixed it. Thank you again so much to Discord for sponsoring today's video. I will see you there, and let's jump back into it. Or crawl, because I don't feel like jumping right now. They love each other most of the time. So a couple of years ago, when I was still first adjusting to the looking like a cyber robot in public thing with my prosthetic leg, I had this little boy run up to me, and he was little enough that he like came eye level with my prosthetic, and he looked at it and was like, wow, and then started knocking on it like it was a front door. I do not know this delightful little angel, but I thought it was super sweet, and so I like launched into my like, oh yeah, that's my carbon fiber rocket foot, you know, my other foot didn't work, so they gave me a better one, and mid-explanation he interrupts me and screams out, I'm a kitten, and then just takes off. Mwah, chef's kiss. That is a 10 out of 10 reaction from a kid. And I hope he is living his best kitten life. All right, story number 2. This one gets into the awkward, uncomfortable, please stop territory. Now, it's probably not going to come as a shock to you that sometimes people will have questions about my prosthetic leg. They'll ask me, you know, how I lost it or how it feels. Is phantom pain real? Do I experience that? And most days from absolute strangers, I'm more than happy to answer these questions, in large part because I can see that people are uncomfortable with it. But when people are a little too interested, nope, hard no. I had a situation with a lady who I did not know, walking up to me, looking down at my prosthetic leg without making eye contact with me because I'm not a person, just staring at my leg, her eyes glinting, and she goes, I have always wanted to touch one of these. Nope. Granted, odd interaction, but what really sealed the deal on the weirdness was that she then proceeded to reach down and start feeling up my prosthetic leg without any kind of response from me. I told the story in a short video I did not long ago, and a lot of people asked like what my response was. I genuinely genuinely didn't have one, I was very weirded out. Because how would you feel if someone walked up to you, stared at your legs, and then just started feeling them up because they liked legs? And I tried to diffuse the weirdness of the situation by sort of slowly stepping back and like trying to engage her in a conversation and get her back up to eye level, but it was so weird because A, that kind of touch was inappropriate if you have an ass, but B, because I have never felt more like an attraction, like a marvel, like something someone would buy tickets to see than that lady's reaction. Okay, story number 3. This occurred maybe 6 months after my amputation. I wasn't using a prosthetic leg yet. I was still using my iWalk, and I walked into a grocery store. Still had a lot of discomfort about the being stared at by strangers in public, like I wasn't super confident with things yet, but I was getting there. I was starting to, you know, feel good. And a lady who actually worked at the store came up to me, put her hands on my shoulders and was like, I just need you to know that no matter what anyone ever tells you, you are beautiful and you need to not forget that. Your leg does not make you less. And she started crying as she was saying this. And I want to make it really clear that that was so genuine, and I really appreciate the intention of where it was coming from. She saw something that she perceived to be something I would see as a bad thing, as a weakness, as something ugly, which, you know, I was working through tiny little pieces of, but I genuinely didn't feel that way. I didn't feel not beautiful. I didn't feel worthless. You know, maybe if this person was a friend and knew that I really struggled with thinking no one would ever love me, or I was super unattractive and wanted to reassure me in that way because this was an established thing, okay, absolutely. But this person has no idea my life story, what I was thinking, if I was struggling with that. And the conversation went on for a long time. She kept telling me like how strong and amazing I am and how don't ever let anyone get you down. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do. And those interactions are just intensely uncomfortable because it's very clear that it's not about me. I will always do my absolute best to respond with like grace, compassion, answer questions, you know, engage with the person in front of me in the way that they might need to be engaged with. But doing things like that it just reinforces the idea that other people see you as different and weird. And unfortunately, the actual affect of her words was me being like, oh, right, I'm weird, right? Like I'm different. And people think that I think I'm hideous because how could I not think that? Like that was the message I took at the time. But again, I genuinely appreciate where her heart was. It was in the right place. The words just didn't have the effect that she was hoping they might have. Number 4, I so wish that I had this on camera. This happened just a couple weeks ago. I was walking around a store and there was this tiny little baby girl who was barely walking. Like she was brand new to this 2-leg thing. And she was sort of toddling around the store with her mom. And as I was walking past, she kind of locked eyes with my leg and very slowly, very off balance, comes over to me and just hugs my prosthetic leg. Just hugged it. And then continued to walk on her way. And oh my God, it was so sweet. It was like just such a genuine, I don't know, expression of curiosity and like acceptance and affection. And she was just the cutest thing, so that helped too. But that one goes in my favorite interactions of all time folder. Number 5, here's where things get scary. This is actually the only in-person interaction I've ever had where I was like, I need to get out of this situation because this reaction doesn't feel safe. I had biked to a park by myself. I sat down by a tree. I took my leg off for a moment because it hurt after biking. I don't generally do that in public if I'm alone, but it was a sunny day, lots of people around. I felt safe. And as I was sitting there just enjoying a snack and my water, a woman about my age came up to me and I heard her sort of like yelling and talking loudly, and I was just like focused on my stuff. Didn't think anything of it until I heard her yell, apologies for the profanity in advance, I'm talking to you, you fucking robot bitch. And I was like, what? And she was talking to me, and she proceeded to say some pretty horrible things. Entirely unprovoked. We had not had any interaction. She was across the friggin' soccer field. There were kids playing, called me a freak and stuff like that. And I was like, there might be some situations in which I would engage in that. Being alone in public with someone who was willing to get so aggressive so quickly, I just removed myself from the situation and left as fast as I could because I just didn't know where that was gonna go. But that is actually the only experience I've had that was really bad all around. Like other interactions have been uncomfortable, but I'm like, I appreciate you know, the sentiment, the intention. But that one, I was just like, get me out of here, I am done. Thankfully, I was safe, everything was okay. But it was sort of a jarring reminder that there are people out there who really don't think disabled people should exist in public. We should just stay home because we're weirdos and freaks and no one wants to see us. Like, that's the kind of stuff that she was saying, and what a very small-minded person. I will just leave it at that. So I know I said 5, but I'm gonna throw in another story because it just made my heart warm. I train in jiu-jitsu, and at the gym sometimes people will bring their kiddos. There's kind of an area for them to play as the adults are training, and I usually sit on the edge of the mat to get my leg off and on because when I'm training I don't have my leg on. And as I was doing the switch out process, these 2 kiddos came up to me. They both looked about 5, and one of them, I know her mom, we've met before, we've chatted, she's asked questions about my leg. I've let her like touch and feel things and, you know, be a part of putting it on because she has that curiosity, which, you know, I love. So let me answer those questions. And her and her friend wandered up to me, and her friend was very concerned about what was going on with my leg situation and was like, what is that? What happened? And as I was opening my mouth to answer, the other little girl chimed in, that's a prosthetic leg. She lost it horseback riding. It's better now. She like took over and answered her friend's questions accurately, which was adorable. And then they both wanted to kind of like play with my leg, see how it worked, feel the squishiness of the liner and how it connects to my body, all of that. But it made me so happy that I was able to show one kiddo a prosthetic leg and hopefully make it fun and not scary and engaging, and to kind of nurture and appreciate that curiosity, and that she then took that and was like educating her friends about things. It was just so sweet. I loved that. Those are the moments where I'm like, yes, okay, I will always continue trying to connect with people about this kind of stuff, because the more we can break down the differentness, I believe the less ableism we'll have, the less discrimination we'll have, the less bad it will be seen to be disabled. And as time and society moves forward, maybe a day will come where, you know, kids with visible differences don't have to deal with bullying in school because no one's weird about it. I don't know. Dream big, right? School can be a rough place, but bit by bit, maybe we can like break down some of those barriers. Anyways, those are my top 5 adorable, sweet, very uncomfortable, and one heck of a frightening situation reactions that strangers have had to seeing my prosthetic leg in public. I mean, I don't want to seem like I think I'm hot shit, but everywhere I walk, there are heads turning. So there's a lot of like glances, a lot of staring, but I don't even notice it anymore. It's not something that is particularly off-putting unless it is too directed or too long. That can definitely start feeling a little weird, but generally speaking, people are fantastic and great and just want to ask questions, and I love that. But the interactions that I get to have with people sometimes are interesting and fun stories to reminisce on. As we finish up, again, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Discord. I am so excited to start this little community for us. Check out the link down below to join my server and spend some time chatting with me live. All the dates are listed down below. A huge thank you, as always, to my patrons over on Patreon for keeping this channel going, for supporting what I do. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you for your generosity. And to you, my lovely viewer, watching this video right now, thank you for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me and the puppies today. You could be anywhere else in the world doing literally anything else, and you chose to hang out with me for a few minutes, and I really appreciate that. Also, I feel like doing this video has sort of brought me out of my self-pity party that I was having, so thanks for sticking it out with me and joining me and cheering me up. Anyways, I love you guys, I'm thinking about you, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah! Bye, guys.
Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006.
Este año cumplimos 70 años llenos de historia, pero al mirar hacia atrás hay cosas que no nos dan orgullo. Ofrecimos viajes de negocios solo a los varones y pusimos a la mujer únicamente en el rol de madre. Hablamos de su cuerpo, su ropa, su peinado y su edad. Mostramos sus piernas para vender pasajes. Mostramos que las mujeres estaban para servir y que un avión no podía ser piloteado por ellas. Entendimos el problema, fuimos parte del problema y hoy queremos participar de la solución.
Mirando al presente con otra perspectiva.
Conectados al cuidar, porque nos mueve incluir. Te invitamos a conocer la línea 800-000-058. Conectados al cuidar. Una línea gratuita de apoyo con profesionales dispuestos a acompañar y acoger a personas con discapacidad y sus cuidadoras. Esta línea también está disponible para atender consultas sobre el Servicio Nacional de la Discapacidad y además orientar sobre los trámites y beneficios del Estado en materia de inclusión. Puedes comunicarte de lunes a viernes desde las 9 hasta las 18 horas. Las personas sordas pueden contactarse a través del sistema Visor Web, disponible en el sitio web de Cenadis, www.cenadis.gov.cl.
Durante los últimos años, el país viene avanzando en la superación de las restricciones que tienen las personas con discapacidad para una participación significativa en la sociedad y el total ejercicio de sus derechos. Sin embargo, aún existen limitaciones para el ejercicio de sus derechos en igualdad de condiciones. En la actualidad, con el apoyo de las Naciones Unidas, el Estado culminó con éxito la fase de prueba de un baremo único nacional para personas mayores de 18 que permite determinar la condición de discapacidad. Durante los últimos años, el país viene avanzando en la superación de las restricciones que tienen las personas con discapacidad para una participación significativa en la sociedad y el total ejercicio de sus derechos. Sin embargo, aún existen limitaciones para el ejercicio de sus derechos en igualdad de condiciones. En la actualidad, con el apoyo de las Naciones Unidas, el Estado culminó con éxito la fase de prueba de un baremo único nacional para personas mayores de 18 años que permite determinar la condición de discapacidad. Este baremo único facilitará la vida de las personas con discapacidad, eliminando la necesidad de repetir la evaluación de su condición cada vez que se acerquen a un organismo prestador diferente. Ahora nos encontramos en la fase de prueba con la población entre 6 meses a 18 años de edad. En esta etapa es necesario que bebés, niños, niñas y adolescentes con alguna discapacidad se sumen como voluntarios para testear el cuestionario. Para rellenar el formulario se debe ingresar en la página web de Naciones Unidas en Uruguay y dirigirse al link que se encuentra en el borde superior de la página. Tu participación es importante.
Hola, soy el doctor Carlos Ferreira, abogado y locutor. Junto con Alexi Cañuzca y Coti Garrone hacemos Sin Barreras, un programa que intenta ser un granito de arena para aportar a la inclusión y la accesibilidad. Desde el Centro de Discapacitados de La Matanza, CEDIMA, en San Justo, Partido de La Matanza, República Argentina, llevamos toda la información, análisis y opinión de la problemática de las personas con discapacidad. Los esperamos.
Personas con discapacidad.
Cambiaremos el mundo, teniendo igualdad.
Mi nombre es Raquel Quesada y seré la presentadora del mismo. En el programa hablaremos de la no discriminación, la participación e inclusión plenas y efectiva en la sociedad, a la igualdad de oportunidades de los derechos y a la accesibilidad de las personas con discapacidad. el respeto a la evolución de las facultades de los niños y las niñas con discapacidad y sus derechos a preservar su dignidad. La inclusión, la sensibilidad, la educación, la diversidad. En este programa todos los sábados celebraremos la vida de las personas con discapacidad. Que juntos podemos cambiar el mundo de personas con discapacidad.
En el nuevo paradigma de la educación inclusiva no cabe la educación especial. Las estructuras educativas especiales han de migrar en un periodo razonable, no se puede hacer todo de la noche a la mañana, hacia estructuras y prácticas plenamente inclusivas para todo el alumnado, sin distinciones ni acepciones.
La Convención Internacional sobre los Derechos de las Personas con Discapacidad de la ONU de 2006 marca el punto de partida de la polémica por el cierre de los colegios de educación especial. El valor de la inclusión educativa es incuestionable y desde la educación especial se desarrollan multitud de procesos innovadores para asegurar esas oportunidades para alumnos con discapacidad.
No es admisible por más tiempo la segregación educativa por razón de discapacidad. Es un imperativo jurídico internacional de derechos humanos comprometido por España con la comunidad internacional y con el sistema de Naciones Unidas. En el caso de la discapacidad parece que forma parte del paisaje, que se acepta con naturalidad y que no provoca especial escándalo, pero no deja de ser una segregación por razón de una diferencia. Se trata de una violación grave de derechos humanos. Proponemos que en el plazo de 5 años desde que se adopte tendríamos ese lapso para migrar de estructuras no inclusivas a estructuras inclusivas. Que no se creen ni se pongan en servicio más centros de educación especial y que no se admitan más alumnos con discapacidad en los centros especiales, deberían ser declarados a extinguir, que subsistan hasta su completa desaparición.
Hola, bienvenidos a Discapacidad Televisión. Recuerda suscribirte para no perderte los últimos estrenos y programas en vivo. Danos un me gusta, y así nos ayudarás a conocerte mejor y saber qué programación es tu favorita. Por favor, no te olvides de compartir, así, más personas podrán disfrutar de Discapacidad Televisión y toda su programación. Muchas gracias. Discapacidad Televisión.
¡Hola mundo!
Primer canal de televisión dedicado al colectivo de personas con discapacidad desde 2006.